Some of you remember the little viewfinders, kind of like binoculars. They're red. Some of you remember these. You plug in the little slides, you go click, and you see a picture, and then you go click, and you see another one, and click, and you see another one. Who had those growing up or for your kids? Like, okay, great. That's what I was really hoping for. I wasn't sure what was going to translate there. They were so cool back in the 70s and the 80s, and we had them in kindergarten. Now, most of the time in kindergarten, I was fixated on this one section of the room that had woodworking, and they had these fake saws that didn't have any teeth on them, and I just sat there for a whole semester just sawing this wood, and I got a groove in it after months and months and months. If I wasn't doing that, I would spend time trying to learn to tie my shoes. I was the last person in kindergarten to learn to tie my shoes. I didn't actually get good at it until second grade. I could read at 3, but I couldn't tie my shoes till 6. Pretty much any other time in kindergarten, every chance I could, I went out over and looked at those viewfinders. Click, 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 click. My favorite slides were 2 of them, I remember. European cities and animals of Africa. Now, I don't know why I liked those cities, because I didn't know what Europe was, but there was something cool about them. Ooh, there's a fuzzy picture of the Colosseum, and there's a fuzzy picture of the Eiffel Tower. And of course I loved animals, because kids love animals. There's a lion, there's a giraffe, there's a mongoose. They were awesome, these little fun toys, these child toys. The pictures were so low quality, and as Maya said, how boring that would be, just pictures. But they were amazing, and I was engrossed, and frankly, there was no way I was going to Rome or anywhere in Europe. I wasn't going on safari anytime soon, so this was fun, and it was educational, and even if it was a cheap toy, I was a child, and I played like a child. Nowadays, I have not tried this yet, but the commercials were nonstop all through the NFL playoffs, and that's the only television I watched, so I couldn't help but watching these commercials. There's some kind of gadget, a lot like a viewfinder, actually. You put your phone into this headset device and you click and you're anywhere. You can see it. These are not low-quality images. They're not even low-quality videos. Has anyone here tried a VR headset yet? A little bit. A few of you? Yeah? Did you like it? Yeah, it's kind of... I haven't tried one yet. I want to try one. The way it works, best I understand, is you open this program on your phone and it gives you different options, and then you click it into the headset and you put your goggles on, and before you know it, it feels like you're just walking around in the Colosseum. Up the stairs, you can go and look at these Latin inscriptions over here. You can walk across the street and see all the statues where the arms are missing. It's really an amazing way. If you can't go to Rome, this might be the best way for you to check it out. And you can imagine what something would have been like. You can sit there and imagine in ways that otherwise would be really hard to do. Imagine what it was like for lions and early Christians to fight it out with thousands of people roaring. And judging by the commercials, this experience for many people seems really powerful. Full of wonder, full of emotion. And yet, just like the old viewfinder slides, you're not really in Rome. Even if you put on the headset and you wander on safari, you're not really in Africa. Those things aren't reality. They are, what does VR stand for?
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. When I become an adult, I put away children's toys and maybe I pick up adult toys. Now here's the thing. In the scripture that Michael read there, Paul says that most of us, most of the time, unfortunately, we're still not as close as we hope to real and deep reality, the real essence of God in our lives. We're growing and using all kinds of ways to understand the world better than us. We are growing, and that's great. We are aware of love in our life. That's amazing. We use insights to grow closer to God, absolutely. But compared to a full awareness of the love that lies at the heart of all things, we're really not that close to that. We have a long way to embrace the whole of creation that God blessed us with. We have a long way to go to embrace this thick sense of fulfillment about how our lives have joy and meaning, how we can dance in any circumstance. Now we see dimly as if in a mirror. Buddha said something like that. Lao Tzu said it. Jesus taught it to his disciples who never seemed to understand. Nearly every spiritual leader I can think of pointed out that the path keeps going for all of us, and that all of us can keep moving closer and closer to some kind of awareness and of embracing a real and full reality. Even if you're not religious at all, there are people who come into this church who haven't been in church forever. There are people who would never call themselves spiritual. But even so, the gospel of Goodwill Hunting put it this way. When Robin Williams was talking to Matt Damon on a bench at the Charles River Basin, if I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written. Michelangelo, you know a lot about him. Life's work, political aspirations, him and the Pope, sexual orientations, the whole work, right? But I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've never actually stood there and looked up to that beautiful ceiling. And I ask you about war, you'd probably throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once more into the breach, dear friends. But you've never been near one. You've never held your best friend's head in your lap, watch him gasp his last breath looking to you for help. I'd ask you about love, you'd quote me a sonnet. But you've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable and known that someone could level you with her eyes, feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you, who could rescue you from the depths of hell. And this is not just a message for punk kids who've only seen the world through broken eyes. Even for those of us who have been to the Sistine Chapel. How many of us have been to the Sistine Chapel? A handful. When I went there, I was distracted by tourists. I was pushed along because they keep sending more and more in there. I didn't know enough about Michelangelo to understand the intricacies of the painting. But even if you did know those things, you had a private showing and you took all the time and you talked with the Pope, there would be facts and there would be mysteries about what to look for. And there would be this step toward embracing the love of God that is portrayed in that ceiling. No matter whether you're religious or not, spiritual or not, an experienced mystic or not, compared to all the beauty and all the wonder that exists in the world, there is still yet another step to seeing through it as if we were seeing God face to face. Corinthians is telling us, from a Christian perspective, something that people everywhere and in all times seem to know, that there is something so rich about life and something so transitory about our normal tendency to live that we miss out so often on the full and the powerful wisdom that God offers. Even when in Rome, even in the midst of our most mundane lives, we miss something about the richness of experience. And what if we could be moved by that beauty? What if we could sense all the wonder that God intended in nature or in inspired art? What if we could be connected to love at the source of all being? What if we could feel the love that others give to us and offer it back fully and know when people love us? What if we could be wrapped up in true joy and not just battered around by circumstantial happiness, but even in the pain and the suffering? What if we were convinced that pure joy runs through the world? What if we knew there was so much out there that we couldn't help but walk in a holy perspective? Now, to be sure, many of us get glimpses of this all the time. We get flashes of sacred wonder. We have these transcendent moments where it all seems to be clear for a time. We understand more deeply. We feel more passionately. The mystics among us know so keenly about these moments of awe where we feel sublime or pure or that way where we can't put it into words. Even people who refuse to talk about or understand or believe in God at all, so many of them still talk about feelings and experiences where something more broke into their normal life. And in that famous passage from Corinthians, Paul wonders, what if we could get closer to that more? What if we could live consistently toward that awareness? What if we could respond lovingly, almost as though we were a little bit like God? What if we could have that clarity and purity and turn it into compassion and peace? And to that question, those questions, many people say, no, too hard. That's just a lot of work. I don't have that kind of focus. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not good enough. I get that. There are a lot of people out there who frankly live a wonderful, interconnected, full service life with happiness and occasional experiences of transcendence, and it can be good and fulfilling and religious. And the dull mirror, frankly, my mirror at my house is pretty dull, and it works. I can still put my clothes on. They don't always match, but I can still put them on. Others ask that question, could I live with a deeper sense of reality? And they assume the only way to do that is to go sit on a mountain and meditate for 20 years, which they're unwilling to do, and I'm unwilling to do. I can't meditate for 20 seconds without my monkey brain going somewhere. And people who do that, yeah, they get insights that you and I probably will never, ever understand or achieve. But I have a lot of respect for that path. I do. But my spiritual heroes are not those folks. My spiritual heroes are those who cultivate that deeper perspective, that sincere walk toward God's face right in the midst of their regular lives. How they do it when their job is stressing them out so much that they just want to quit everything and stay in bed, how do they still follow along some path toward God? When their life, I wish I had that kind of faith, when their life is in this turmoil of relationships and mistrust and brokenness, how do they maintain love in that? When they come home not face to face with God, but face to face with their broken dreams and their sadness and their shame, I wish I had the kind of hope that could remind me at all times to keep moving forward. People who do that, from partial and incomplete toward a sacred sense of faith and hope and love, the people who live so deeply within life, not separated from life, those are the ones who captivate me. Those are the ones I want to be inspired by, who draw me onto a path of holiness. And some of you are those people. My life is richer because of it. There are those of you who are that way, and foremost, you're the first ones to say that you are still washing your mirror, still learning and growing, still reaching toward the face of God. And that is why, those kind of people, that's why I'm fascinated by Jesus. Not because he's divine, but because he is so normal. He was a construction worker, and he used those metaphors to teach people. He could see something divine and hopeful in death through very human tears. He could push others to understand faith even through the frustration that sounds so familiar to so many of us. He could embrace the value of other people in a world where he had to fight just for the right to say that person matters. And he stood up for the consequences there. Now, I have no childish dreams about being like Jesus, but I do want to follow him however I can, one step at a time, in my career, in my own tears, in my relationships, in my frustrations, in my failures, in my fights, in my grief, in my humanity. I want to follow him so that by acknowledging my own neuroses, I can care better for others in theirs. I want to follow him so that realizing my own prejudices, I can work harder for justice for all. I want to follow him so that by praying for strength in my life, I might be a little more stable for others. I want to follow him so that by appreciating the blessings around me, I can be a bit of a blessing. My hope is that we can all follow him for those kind of reasons and walk together from childishness to maturity onto holiness. Now, I'll say three things about this topic, and we'll turn it over to a classic song so we can be joyful. First thing that really connected with Emily's song that she was going to sing, so you'll just have to file this one away. Let's call it Stop and Smell the Roses theology. And this is an important part of every religion has this. On the one way I understand Paul, he is saying something in a Christian way, that there are roses out there among us, among the thorns even, and God is encouraging us to be more aware and more connected to the ordinary miracles of this life we are given. Some of us are bowled away in our lives at what we call miracles. And probably all of us have different stories. Book Club talks about these things. Some of the teenagers talk about these things. Maybe when you drink wine with each other, you talk about these things. But there are ordinary miracles every day that can knock us over. And we do not need spectacle, and we do not need the cult of the latest and greatest to be inspired and grow. The world is rich, and it will set us free. Second, when we embrace that, I believe there's something really contagious about a deeper sense of life. And the technological parable here would be that beauty and joy and love and all of those things go viral. When we do stop and smell the roses, we say, hey, come smell these. These smell beautiful. Come look at these. And those experiences of awareness and of transcendence, they capture our imagination in a way that is personal but by no means private. We want to share it with friends, which is why I believe, more than any other thing, that's why I have hope for the church, Big C Church, not this congregation, but the whole church in the world. No matter how much the whole church messes up with politics or boredom or doctrine or just being mean, people are always going to want to share their deepest hearts with people they care about. And so there's a future for us. Third, I wonder, maybe this is just my musing list of questions. What if we did live so aware of ourselves and so committed to engaging with the depth of the world around us? What in God's name would that be like? Those flashes and moments of awareness, what would it be like to have that in front of us at any time? There is such a huge gap from viewfinder to VR. There is such a huge gap from VR to our lives. What if there really is a gap, as Paul assumes, from this life we live to the fullness and richness with God, the brilliance of life abundant? What if we actually followed the values that we say we support? What if we deeply sought the aspects of faith that really do inspire us? What would life be like if in all situations of brokenness we committed to healing ourselves and others? What would it be like to see the world through God's eyes and to get involved, to choose every day to put on that sort of headset and be in that sort of heart space? And whatever those answers to my musing questions may be, may that be the joy with which we look on the world. May that be the truth by which we measure all things, and may that be the wonder with which we are taken up into the ecstasy of the mundane. Amen.